Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus Pimp Sun Kiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, certainly, for a quick read on the Diddy situation, the Diddy case, the verdict specifically. I'm going to be popcorning in and out with different videos that touch on different instances of the case just to, tap in with spirit and see what they have to say. So, of course, he was found guilty on 2 out of 5 counts. And that is great that he was found guilty, period, in general. But looking over the information, something just did not seem right to me, because if you find him guilty of these things concerning prostitution and transportation and all of that as it concerns these 2 women, which means that you believe their stories, you believe everything that they said, you believe that they were prostitutes in his enterprise and that he was doing all this moving and shaking for it, you basically say that you believe Cassie and Jane Doe's story. So if you find him guilty on those 2 counts, it doesn't make sense that you don't find him guilty on at least one of the other 3 counts. It doesn't make any sense. And the way my spiritual gifts work, I pick up on things that people are intentionally trying to hide and or intentionally trying to position in a way of fraudulence. And so that's a part of what led me to ask this particularly, because it just don't make no sense. And it is lined up in a way like somebody made a deal. It is literally lined up in a way where it's like, okay, well, we know it'll look ridiculous if we find him not guilty on everything. So we got to find him guilty on at least certain undeniables. But let's not do him too hard, right? Yeah, like some other trickery, dickery, dock and such is going on. So pull these cards and I ask Spirit simply, why? And y'all, I would, because this is one that I really would love to, have done the shuffle and pull and whatnot on camera to, thoroughly show my work and whatnot. But I don't have the equipment here to do that. So we use what we got to get what we want. But what I ask Spirit is, why did the jury decide on the verdict that they did in this case? So, and I'm gonna do this real quick. We're not gonna linger too long in this energy. So first card that we got out here is the 4 of Swords in reverse. And with that, I'm picking up on them essentially being restless. Essentially being restless, feeling rushed, feeling like a whole lot of pressure, and also feeling a whole lot of angst. I'm picking up that a lot of people felt very overwhelmed by the details of the case, while there are some other people that feel overwhelmed by the pressures and influences of people in their real life. So it's very interesting, the influence that a person can have, because literally what Spirit is saying to me is that there are certain people that idolize Diddy in such a way, and they know that they have friends or family members that were on jury duty and whatnot, and they've been on their ass like, you need to make sure he get off, you need to, do this and that. And so it's given like it was a tug of war going on. And the energy of the case, and I'm not gonna lie, what I'm picking up on here, there is some spiritual workings going on Diddy's end, whether he's doing it or he has someone on his team. I'm seeing the imagery of his mother. So it could very well be his mother doing spiritual work for him and concerning the case and whatnot. And what I'm sensing is this surging of overwhelming energy, basically to wear them out to the point that their judgment is off, and or they just hurry up and make a decision to hurry up and get to the next thing. But what I'm picking up on here and what I'm hearing as well is that there were certain members of the jury that were like, bro, all the stuff that we have heard, and particularly from Cassie and Jane Doe, we cannot sit up here and act like this man is innocent. Like, we can literally not have sat here and listened to all of this and not give at least these 2 women who sat up on that stand and bared their souls to everybody. We cannot at least give them justice, some form of justice and validation for not only what they've experienced with him, but what they experienced up on the stand and having to relive that and be re-traumatized by the people who, decided to go out of their way to re-traumatize them for telling their story. Okay. So now moving on to the Hierophant in reverse. The Hierophant in reverse is pointing towards some of what I just said, recounting some of what I just said about someone on Diddy's team. Someone on Diddy's team doing spiritual work on his behalf and surging this very influential, like poisonous, overwhelming energy to distort people's judgment. Also picking up on the fact that he may have a mole within the jury and or within somewhere on the the prosecution's side. He may have a mole over there who seems to be, upstanding, and like they really want to see Diddy face justice and they really want to see Diddy go down. But that person is actually a main facilitator and him getting getting found guilty on lesser charges. That's very interesting. So I may do a video on its own for that, because that's very interesting. So moving forward, because there'll be some more from the Hierophant card that comes out amongst the rest of the cards, and I don't want this to get too lengthy, lingering on any one thing. So we then have from the Love and Money deck, we have gambling, gossip, unexpected event. All of them are all sideways. So we're going to address all of the meanings of those cards. Starting with gambling. First off, right off rip, and I'm gonna give my right off rip channelings for them before I read them off. So with gambling, people have bets. This is going back to the messages that I said about like certain jury members having people in their real life on their ass about what decision they make and, the part that they're playing in the case and all of that. So it's given that even some of the jurors may also have had, some money on the situation too, and initially not realizing like the depths, the weight, and the seriousness of the case, or the seriousness of their role, and getting down to this whole thing. And it's like, and that's why also why these cards are sideways, because some of these jury members put themselves in a crossroads, not taking their position seriously initially. And I'm hearing some of them weren't paying attention. I'm hearing that some of these ones who were not taking the case seriously for real, they weren't taking their position as a jury member seriously for real. In the beginning stages of the case and in certain main points of the case, they were not paying attention. Which is also the energy of the gamble itself. Okay, so some of this is literal gambling, and some of this is the energy of gambling, such as you've been put in this position and you're gambling with people's lives and you're gambling with people's livelihoods because you don't want to take your position seriously and you don't want to take what the fuck is going on seriously. Anyway, the right side up of this card reads off: bets on uncertain outcomes with little control over the result. Dreams of hitting the jackpot, but often ends up with empty pockets. Feels trapped in a slot machine cycle and hopes for a lucky break. I also want to acknowledge the number 66 there. And what I'm picking up from all of that and reading it off, what was channeling through literally as I was reading it off, is there may very well, very, very, very likely, there are going to be members of the jury that start talking, that start spilling some behind the scenes tea, if you will. Because it's given that some of them were made promises by Diddy, or members of his team or whatever, what have you, and or they thought that their position as a jury member was going to go further than what it was, and it's going to be some pitfalls on the back end. So it's a lot of trickery dickery doc that is going on with the jury, a lot of people tugging and pulling on jury members. And like I said, it's going to be some ones that start talking and start spilling tea. And I'm going to stick a pin in that real quick and read the other side of the message. Even if you proceed with your uncertain plans, I'll always care about you, but I'm more worried these risks might drive us apart. Let's find a secure path together. Okay? That again is going back to, there is a mode, and it may even be more than one. There's a mode, very likely, allegedly, there's a mode within the jury and or on the prosecution team. And I'm hearing that's gonna be revealed because there are some promises that were never meant to be honored, that were never intended to be honored. They're going to be broken. And there are also some realizations, some epiphanies. There's some jury members experiencing guilt as I speak. There's some jury members experiencing extreme guilt and extreme spiritual attack. Because this is very spiritual. And that's also why I said I don't want to linger in this energy too long for real. But like I said, someone on Diddy's team doing spiritual work. But there are also people. And I'm seeing Cassie. So I'm wondering if it could be Cassie or if it could be people that's friends with Cassie or that love Cassie. I'm also, okay, they let me know something. So I'm picking up is people that care about Cassie and Cassie's family, friend group, and things of that nature that are prayer warriors, honey. They may not necessarily do hoodoo, voodoo, or anything of that nature, but they are anointed spirits by the divine realm, and they be praying their ass off, honey. And they've been putting some shit into the ether that's gone turn this case like a mug. Because even though he was found, guilty on the things, there's still some trickery dickery doc, and the divine realm is saying, that ain't the justice we ordered. So yeah, another side of this too, though, is there are spiritual workers online. There are spiritual workers online. I ain't been doing no casting. I'm just going to say I ain't been doing no casting towards the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and let y'all know it ain't me, honey. But I am picking up that there are spiritual workers online that have been following the case, following Cassie, following this whole situation and different cases of the nature, and they do spiritual workings to ensure justice. And I'm hearing that that's a part of a reason why there has been more justice and more predators and abusers and such being found guilty over the past couple of years, because spiritual workers on the higher vibrational side of things have been being more unapologetic and more proactive in their castings and in their workings and their practices, and they've been using what they got to get what the world needs, baby. And I'm here for it. I'm excited hearing that news. That's some great shit. I also keep seeing Diddy's daughters, and it's coming up also with that energy of the number 66 as well. And I'm gonna make sure I have signed up to say all things I'm saying here are alleged. Okay, this is all based off my understanding of my spiritual gifts and what these cards mean and all of that good stuff. All right, but like I said, somebody on Diddy's team, on Diddy's end, is doing spiritual workings and whatnot. And people keep asking, why are the daughters there? That's why. Whether they know it or not, that's what Spirit is saying. The daughters are there because they are a part of whatever the rituals and spiritual castings that whoever on Diddy's team is doing for him. They are using the energy, the twin energy specifically, and the Holy Trinity energy of the twins and the other daughter amongst their youth, amongst their femininity, to try to shield Diddy from as much accountability and as much true justice as they possibly can. But I am hearing also that one of the daughters may also start chatting. Whether we end up seeing her firsthand, there may be information that comes out that is from her. Now, I can't quite see if she will, allow herself to be seen. If I was in her position, I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't. But it's given that it's gonna be some people, including one of Diddy's daughters at least, that will start leaking information. And they may not reveal their identity, but they're gonna start leaking out information that is undeniable. So another side we have here, and this is expanding a lot of what I just said, the gossip card. So coming straight off the backs of, what I just said about chatter, tea being spilled, all things of that nature. I'm gonna read off the right side of the card, okay? Unfounded allegations damage reputations and trust. Whispers of gossip cause confusion and spread misinformation. And the other side reads, I realize there is something between us, but the rumors feel overwhelming. The damage is done, not by what was said, but by what was left unsaid. And I'm hearing Spirit say in this moment, there are some jury members that did not follow directions. Again, this is bringing up to me again that there is a mode or two or a few within the collection of the jury. Someone he has had, some sort of relationship with, or someone he's been selling dreams, someone he's been repeating the cycle with. And remember what I just said, somebody feeling tugged and pulled, somebody feeling overwhelmed. There's multiple people, but there are specific people who have deeper ties than what they appear. And another side of this too is, like I said, certain jury members in general not following directions, not following the rules, discussing the case with their family members, discussing the case with their friends and shit, letting their family and friends who idolize Diddy and who are probably predators and abusers and shit themselves influence their mindset. They scrolling on social media, following stuff concerning the case on social media, and allowing their perspectives to be skewed. And I just heard as well that whatever the ritual is being done by whoever on Diddy's end is also meant to spew this energy, this surging of temptation, to tempt people to feed into their temptations. What they haven't counted on, though, is some people be tempted to do what's right. And that's also the duality of us and the duality that Spirit is speaking to as well in this moment. That there are some people who, fed into the temptation of doing what was wrong, feeding into the consumerism, and we're going to get to that card. And then on the back end, now they're feeling tempted to rectify their actions and do what's right. All right, unexpected event. This one is also tied to the gambling card in a way, and this is going towards a whole lot of different people wanting a narrative, wanting what they think ought to be the truth to be blasted to the masses so that they can get whatever ego boost they need or desire from that. And that's what this card is getting into a lot. And it's also pointing towards and expanding those messages about a whole bunch of people trying to influence the jury, tug and pull on members of the jury. This card is also a blatant foreshadowing and, somewhat of, some spiritual confirmation of the messages that just came out, of course, allegedly. And so what that is an unexpected event coming out. I'm hearing potentially by the end of the week, to be honest, or by the very beginning of next week, some unexpected event, urgent news is going to come out. And like I said, this is piggybacking and expanding off of the messages that I just said about some people having like remorse on the back end and epiphanies and shit on the back end and coming back and being like, hey, it's some extra shit going on. We fucked this up. And I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna do a video on it specifically, but there may be like this. I don't want to say it's solidified because, I'm focusing on why they came to it, but it's a lot of other messages coming out in the midst. But this case might get flipped on his head like a motherfucker. Like, this shit is not over at all, is what I'm saying. Like, it seems like, oh, he wrapped up, they just signed a verdict. Oh, now he's just gonna be saying this. Nah, something else is fixing to happen. And like I said, more information is about to come out. And he's probably going to end up getting harsher charges one way or another. So yeah. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up with the final card here, which is the consumerism card. Oh, I'll read off the text on this card. Unexpected event. Breaking news of unexpected disputes and rising tensions. Engaged in constant battles and facing relentless opposition. The other side reads, I want to face this together. I want to hold your hand in the midst of chaos and calm you. I want to walk through this storm with you and never let go. I need to release my fears and fully support you. The whole time I was reading this off, I was getting imagery of Young Miami. Spirit don't want me to elaborate too much on the imagery and the vision of it all, but they did want me to just pinpoint that whatever the unexpected event is, it may be surrounding or have something to do with Young Miami one way or another. I'm also feeling called to say, and I may leave the link in the video, for whatever reason they want me to, but I have a video on Young Miami as it concerns her position in this whole thing. So that's coming up to be bumped up and reviewed. But yeah, so in general, I'm picking up that other girlfriends of his, some shit about to hit the fan even more so. This shit is not over. And I'm hearing in this moment, it's some people that's pissed off, including some girls that may still be under his thumb that are pissed about the verdict. And I'm seeing windmilling. This shit not over, y'all. This shit is not over. But down to the consumerism card. And it's right side up, so we focus on the right side up. Focuses on material wealth and neglects true happiness. Unending desire for more and satisfaction is elusive. That's very simply stated and reiterates a lot of the messages that have already come up concerning certain people tugging and pulling on the jury. But this blatantly says that it's a high possibility that certain members of the jury were paid off and or were sold dreams by Diddy and or members of his team, and it's played a large role in their decision making in the verdict. But there was a strong consensus of, we cannot sit here and act like we ain't hear what the fuck Cassie and Jane Doe said. Honey. But I'll be back with some follow-up reads and whatnot on the situation and touching on some stuff that came up in this video. But that's it for now. And with all that being said, Charlie, if I do say so myself, honey, I have milked this cow dry. And I am thoroughly appreciative for the exchange of vibes. And if you feel synchronized, please do me a divine design and like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these screen quotas for the next time. And be sure to bless that comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you in always light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.